Hi, I'm Miriam Manzo. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're in my personal kitchen, and I thought that we would discuss design mistakes that I've seen over years of doing consultations and being in hundreds of homes. One of the things that I notice is we live such busy lives, and we don't often take the time to really consider how our space functions as well as how it looks. They're two different things. So while a lot of us may think about the fact that we don't like the color of our cabinets or the height of our counters or the counters themselves, a lot of people don't stop to think whether their kitchen is functioning properly. We forget that this is a room we spend a lot of time in, and it should be a room that you're happy to be in. So I'm going to go through some of the mistakes I've seen over the years and how to correct them. So while my kitchen, as you can see, is quite large, I know that not everybody enjoys that same luxury in their home. And I also know that most people inherit their kitchens as opposed to being able to design it from the ground up as I did. So let's start there. Let's start with the inherited kitchen. So the first mistake that I see walking into so many homes is an improperly lit kitchen. So we did a specific lighting video on design rules for lighting. I encourage you to take a look at that. What we did not discuss in that video was how to scale and hang your lights at the proper space. But let's take a moment to go back and review. The biggest mistake I see is kitchens that are not lit properly, where there is what I like to call light boob on the ceiling, which is what the fixture type that most builders put in, and that would probably only have a 40 or 60 watt bulb. And then I see a lot of people who are cooking without a light over the stove or a light over their kitchen sink. So if we talk about lighting, as I said, go back and have a look at that video on how to calculate the proper lumens for the rooms to give you the right amount of light for the function of that space. But now let's talk about scale and size of your light fixtures. So if you have an island and you have an 8-foot ceiling, your counters are always approximately 34 to 36 inches off the ground. That's the height of your counters. So I like to have my light fixture at about 36, ideally 39. And if I have higher ceilings, I'm going to go up to 42 inches above the counter height. So the reason for that is when I'm at my kitchen counter, I don't like to be looking into a light, and I far too often see people hanging those lights over their island too low so that you are looking into it. And then I see people using an improper light fixture. So again, referring to our lighting rules video, you want ambient or task lighting in this scenario. So you don't want a light that is shining up towards the ceiling. Rather, you want a light that's shining out, so it's lighting the whole area, or coming down, so it's lighting your work surface. Now, if we go to the kitchen table next, again, you want to hang your fixture approximately 36 inches above the tabletop height. Now, your tabletop height now is 30 inches off the floor, not 36. So for every 1 foot high ceiling, I tend to go up about 3 inches to the bottom of my light fixture. Now, in terms of scale, again, I often see a big voluptuous island with light fixtures that are far too small and that only have one light bulb. This is particularly true in a bohemian or an industrial style type of room, where those pendants very often have only one bulb in them. So be careful of that. You're going to need multiple lights in order to light that room. Now, if it doesn't come from your pendant, then it needs to come from the ceiling in terms of pot lights. So how to scale a light for that island. So Normally what I like to do is I like the edge of my light to come in about 1 foot from the island. Now remember, if your fixture is 36 inches above the counter, and we know that the counter is 36 inches above the floor, that means the bottom of your fixture is 6 feet. If that light fixture is too close to the edge of your island, you run the risk of someone who's tall hitting their head on it as they lean in. So this is why I like to give a good 12 inches clearance from each end. And then I like to see a minimum of 24 inches between the lights. Now, if you have an island that's 8 feet wide, we're going to bring the edge of our lights 12 inches in on either side from the island. And if we're going to use 2 pendants to light that island, then we should have at least 2 feet between the edge of those pendants, between each other, which now means that our 2 pendants should be 24 inches in width. So now if you want to use 3 pendants, you're going to basically scale down so that you can get that 18 to 24 inches in between. Now, lighting the room in layers, as we've talked about in a previous video, is about creating ambient light, task light, and then cabinet lighting. So again, if you're inheriting a kitchen and it doesn't have lights that are underneath your cabinets, this is an easy fix. There are so many products now that work off batteries that will help light your space up without having to bring an electrician in. I'll leave a link below to some of my favorites. And even over the sink, there are now light bulbs that can be recharged, battery operated sconces that can be placed over the sink so that you can properly light it. This gives layers and luxury to your kitchen without having to break the bank or completely gut your kitchen. The next mistake I see people make is color. When doing your kitchen, whether it's refinishing something that you already have or creating something new, I encourage you to go neutral with your cabinets. Color for me should be brought in accessories, in your fabrics, in your paint color, not on your cabinets. Eventually somebody else is going to inherit your home through the sale of that house, and that's going to be one of the first red flags for someone, is when they see a color that was too personal to the previous homeowner. It's a red flag for them in terms of them having to now think about what the cost is going to be for purchasing that house and having to redo the cabinet so it's more to their taste. So while I do believe that a kitchen should be personal, you should do that in ways that are easily changed. I see this far too often in the selection of countertops and backsplash as well, where the backsplash does not match the kitchen counters or is so specific to the taste of those homeowners that it really becomes the focal point of that kitchen, which now takes us to another mistake. Too many focal points in your kitchen. You need to decide who the star of the show will be. We can't all be Tom Cruise. So neither can your kitchen cabinets and all the design elements in your kitchen. You want to pick one star and have everybody else be a supporting player. So be careful who the star is. Cabinet hardware. This is an easy fix for most people, is to change out hardware that they don't love, providing you understand that you need to know what the holes are, as if you're not going to be refinishing those cabinets. So in this example here, you can see they went with an oversized handle on these lowers. First of all, I find again, this almost makes the handles the star, and it really shouldn't be. It should be a supporting player. I also don't like how far down those handles go, because you have to reach down too far to really comfortably grab that handle. The other thing is with your faucets. You want to make sure that your fixtures match. So again, there is a way to mix metals. However, you have to be conscious of chrome. Chrome is the least friendly with other metal finishes. And again, decide who the star of the show is when picking your fixture colors. Let's go back now to how I started this conversation, how most homeowners don't have the time to really think about how their kitchen functions. So when moving into a new house or assessing your existing kitchen, really think about the way you use your kitchen. Try to set up zones. So even though you don't have a luxurious in-size kitchen, doesn't mean that you can't specify certain areas for certain functions, and try to minimize the effort it takes to get from one place to another. Let's talk about egress. Egress is the way you move through a space. So you want to be able to have a flow around your furniture and between your cabinets, and if you have an island, or just between cabinet to cabinet or fridge to cabinet. So the minimum I like to see ever is 32 inches. So whether that's between your sink and your island, your stove and your island, your fridge and your island, your chairs and your wall, 32 inches is the minimum. 3 feet is better. Now, I've often seen the opposite of that, where it's a large kitchen and they have too much space between the stove and the island, 48, 54, even 5 feet I've seen. Again, you don't want to spend too much time walking back and forth in order to be the most productive and to feel that your kitchen functions well. You have to think about your flow patterns. So again, if you're inheriting a kitchen, you can't always change where your sink is versus your stove, but you can make sure that when you're placing your table in that room, that you're allowing for that flow around and that you're not blocking off any doorways in and out of the room. Now, if you're starting from scratch and you have an 8 or 9 foot ceiling or even 10 feet, the biggest luxury is to take your cabinets right to the ceiling. You are leaving money on the table in terms of storage, function, as well as resale value by stopping your cabinets short. Now, I know a lot of people are going to say, well, not everybody has that budget, and that's true. But what I tell my clients is, put the money into that. That's not something you can change easily. And then let's live with your current kitchen table until you have the budget to replace that instead. I often find, especially with young couples, who tell me that their budget is restricted, but then they tell me about how they were out the night before and enjoyed a $200 bottle of wine. So while everybody is entitled to give value to what is important to them, like I said, encourage you to put money into your home, into things that can't be easily changed, and then add to that in layers as money becomes available. In keeping with those who are starting from scratch, let's talk next about appliances. Again, I would encourage you to do panel-ready appliances. This is actually more important in a small space than even in a large space. By putting panel-ready appliances and having them blend seamlessly into your cabinetry, you're actually visually increasing the size of the room. And again, it makes the appliances supporting characters to the story of your kitchen. They should not be the star unless they are your stove area. This is, to me, one of the biggest places that should be considered the focal point. Now, I want to also mention when you have your sink, ideally, a window is the best place to put your sink. But there are scenarios where it wasn't possible for us to do a window. So I see people taking cabinets right there and they're now in front of their face, that cabinet. I would suggest creating a window look by placing a mirror in front of you. This actually creates depth for the person who's washing the dishes, as well as allowing them a view, because that mirror will reflect what's happening behind them. The final mistake I see people making, and for me this is a big one, is not considering the room like you do every other. So it's not decorating the room. Now, again, I understand for smaller kitchens, space is an issue, as is storage. So let's talk about that for a minute. I far too often see people taking the doors off of their cabinets, and right now with the trend of having open shelves, creating these open shelves area and then having a mishmash of dishes and in colors, in styles, and just too much inside those shelves or on those shelves. The kitchen should not look like a prep kitchen. So in other words, we don't want to see an abundance of chaos. It actually takes away from the experience of eating your food and being able to savor not just the food and taste, but the ambience of the meal when there's too much clutter. So that goes for counters as well. And again, I know people are limited for space, but I notice even in my own kitchen, which as you can see is quite large, there are probably 40% of the cabinets that I have in here that I actually never go into. They're full, but I never go into them. They are things that I am just hanging on to because I might one day use them, but in reality, all those gadgets, I kind of thought, you know, maybe I want a deep fryer, maybe I want a toaster oven. I maybe used once or twice, but they weren't part of my regular routine, so I never wound up pulling them out again. So I encourage you to take a look around. Not everybody has 40% like I do, but I bet you'll find some stuff that you think you're going to use or that you feel like you want to use it, but you don't actually. Clearing the counter of some of the chaos really helps us to live a more luxurious life by providing calm and still. We sometimes need negative space in our lives because they are so busy to be able to relax. So you know that I believe the kitchen counters should basically be quite free of appliances. And you can see in my own, I've used trays, which I've talked about, to corral some of the items I need by my stove. I use pretty vessels to hold my utensils next to my stove. And I've also placed art and faux flowers on my counter. These are the things that bring me joy when I come into the kitchen and make that space a space that I really want to spend time in. I hope you take a look around your kitchen and see if you're making any of the design mistakes that we've talked about. And I hope I've encouraged you to see the kitchen in a different way and to bring some luxury to your life. Please don't forget to subscribe, click that bell icon to be notified of our future videos, leave a thumbs up, and leave a comment. Let us know how we're doing and what your thoughts are on some of the mistakes you've seen in kitchens, either your own or others. I'm Miriam Manzo. Thanks for watching.